overall, I think it's really positive to see Chancellor Ada Reeves come out and start to look at wealth as a source for taxing rather than people's earnings, because houses are a huge source of wealth in our economy. Unfortunately, we've had decades of policy that have pushed prices up and up, and incomes just haven't kept pace with that house price growth. So it's definitely a source that the Chancellor should be looking at.
And I mean, that disparity between wages and house prices has been catastrophic for some people, hasn't it? It's been the opposite for others, but it's been catastrophic for some people.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, some research that we did found that landlords in England gained over £400 billion in wealth thanks to house price rises between 1990 and 2022. And that's even before they made a penny from rent. That was just how much they're worth if the houses went up. At the same time, wages still haven't recovered to pre-2008 levels. So you're right, the disparity is huge. And then obviously council tax itself is hugely regressive. I mean, it's based on property values back in April 1991. I mean, that's before I was born. So, there's definitely a lot of work here to be done. So it's great to see the government look at this as a potential option. But we also want the government to look at other sources of wealth. And the two biggest winners that we've seen from the last few years are banks and billionaires. So they really should be considering those as well as property prices.
Let's linger on council tax for a minute, because most of us are experiencing council tax going up and up and up. I know I certainly am. And the idea that based on your house property in a given period, it will just go even higher up probably terrifies quite a few people, because you're not talking about the uber wealthy here, are you? You're talking about people who are just in a particular band. And it will I mean, mine's 300 quid a month, my property tax, or a whisker short of that. So that's over £2,000 a year. That's a fair chunk of money. If you've also, if you're paying an annual tax on your property, let's say this is the plan, plus your council tax has doubled or something. I mean, this is really digging into people's money, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really scary stuff when you put that against the rise in food prices and energy prices. But it's also really scary if you're a renter, because that's where council tax falls.
So
again, you've got landlords and homeowners who are renting properties out that aren't paying the tax on their wealthy assets. That's being put on the shoulders of renters.
But you've got plenty of owners who are.
Yeah, well, yeah, that definitely as well. But, also got to consider that there are so many groups who are being hard done by the current system. So it is great to see the government step up and want to look at ways that it can be improved.
You talk about not wanting to add, that it's better to look at property than income. It's interesting you say that, because groups like the IFS say, look, if we are going to fund public services the way we want them funded, you have to stop telling people their income tax isn't going to go up, because at some point the Chancellor is going to have to rely on a whole population tax rather than just, they've done well, she's done well, he's done well, which is fine. Tax people. I'm not suggesting you don't tax people, but some things require everybody to be taxed a bit more.
That's true, but I think another thing that we've long advocated for is equalising capital gains tax. So that's the money that you make from passive assets and investments. So again, that's currently taxed far less than income. So again,
give us an example of that. That would be a property that's not your main home that you might sell.
It could be a property that's investments, stocks and shares, or if you're lucky enough to have a wealth asset manager looking after your long-term, basically anything where you're accruing income but not
working for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely there's huge gaps in the tax system that the government should be looking at to make things fairer and to not put more of that burden on working people's shoulders.
Do you think we're moving to a time, I mean, past evidence suggests the answer to this question is no, but I wonder, are we moving towards a time where tax will be equalised more, so the same rate will be paid on the kinds of wealth you've described there as is paid on income?
We really hope so. I mean, I think we're definitely in a place now that we weren't a year ago, where the Chancellor is conceding that things need to change. And thankfully, they are listening to a lot of campaigners like ourselves and people calling out for how unfair the current economic system is. And thankfully, you turning on some of the really bad decisions. But there's so much more that needs doing, whether it's fixing the housing crisis, whether it's fixing our unequal tax system. There is just a lot of work to be doing. So it's great to see this announcement today. But, there's a lot more that the Chancellor needs to roll up her sleeves and get to work on. So we look forward to seeing what else is in the autumn budget later.
I mean, I'm
year.
aware that there's a lack of detail here, but we can speculate, can't we? The national tax, I read here, would be paid, on property, would be paid by owner-occupiers on houses worth, so this would not trouble renters, on houses worth more than 500,000, when they sell their home. So that wouldn't be the annual tax on your house. That would be when you sell your home. But that's stamp duty with a different name, isn't it?
I mean, potentially, it is very hard to say specifically because we have such little detail, or it's come out of the press rather than the government itself. So
£500,000 is probably a first-time buyer's price for a flat in London these days, isn't it?
I mean, that's the other reason why council tax needs to be looked into, because of the distortionate rise in house prices in different regions of the country. You've got people in Blackpool paying more for council tax than, mansions in Kensington. So it's absolutely something that needs to be looked at. So we're really glad that they are, but we look forward to seeing more detail ASAP.
Speaking of mansions in Kensington, if you live in London and you know Holland Park, there are these beautiful cream stucco fronted, detached houses, absolutely beautiful houses. They probably cost 20 million. People like famous actors and famous, business people have houses there, and they're beautiful houses. I remember years ago seeing the very same kind of house, looked identical to them, 7-8 bedrooms, huge garden, basement that you could, hold a festival in, huge things. 800,000, and I was like, why aren't I buying this palace and living in it on the banks of the River Mersey? What am I doing? But it was a real example of what you're talking about, that you could get this. I mean, you could literally add a zero if you move that to the southeast. It's bonkers, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've got friends up in Northumberland who own their houses or are looking to buy bigger houses, and I'm like, that's insane. Just something not anyone living in London can really contemplate.
Yeah, don't tell anyone it's beautiful up there.
Oh, it is gorgeous up there.
It's beautiful up there. Yeah. Let's all move to Northumberland. Thank you very much, Hannah. The people in Northumberland will be like, no, don't. Thanks, Hannah. Good to talk to you. Head of campaigns at Positive Money, Hannah